Have you joined the latest voyage to brand new digital worlds out there? Because right now, times are changing, and honestly, companies did not expect this one. So, AI image development companies expected just complete, unfettered access to copious amounts of data. They expected unprecedented and honestly unwarranted loyalty to all of their platforms. But how did that work out? I have never in my life seen such a mass exodus from all major art platforms. I'm talking Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, ArtStation, and what else? Like, tell me down below, what else did I miss in this list? Because the list goes on and on and on. And what we see right now, especially over the last few months, we've seen artists shutting down accounts, we've seen them deleting all their artwork, we've also seen them delete their artwork and then re-upload it with data poisoned images so that if it is scraped, get a little trap in there for them. Running counter motion to the propaganda pushed by AI image gen companies, they said that, oh, you're going to unleash your creativity and it's going to spawn more creativity. It's going to allow more creativity to be unleashed upon the world. But it didn't unload more creativity. It drained all creativity from all of these platforms. And then there's also newer platforms that are taking a hard stand against any AI user on it, and good for them. Like, for example, is anyone here on Kara? Kara's been a great new platform. And by the way, is anyone here like an OG Kara user like me? Like, I was on it before, it was cool. And I want to ask you this, are you a digital refugee now? Like, there's a lot of artistic nomads I see nowadays. And while that is an awful side effect, tell me down below, like, where are you hosting and posting all of your art now that a lot of the big major platforms are starting to have an end of their era for actual artists? And also, what safeguards are you taking in order to protect your data? So would you like to know how only Tony Stark is capable of actually salvaging and sustaining AI image gen tech? Here's why. In case you didn't know this, there's been a horribly disproportionate investment versus return on all AI development. And they've spent trillions of dollars worldwide for what? Not to mention, by the way, all the disastrous global impacts to it on electricity, on water, and many other really vital resources. You know, we kind of need to live as human beings, right? But let me just go ahead and lay out some statistics just to prove this point. According to the stats most recently, there has been over $1 trillion invested globally into AI development, with the US leading it with currently $328 billion. And now that's just the US alone. So you must logically think like, wow, these people must be just making money hand over foot, right? But that's not the case. So what about the revenues then? You must think it's pretty astronomical. It's not. So according to the stats right here, OpenAI grossed $3.4 billion this year, Midjourney grossed $200 million, and Stable Diffusion with $5 million. Does anyone else smell what I'm stepping in here? Like a vicious ex-wife, AI investments and AI investors are taking everything for what it's worth and giving practically nothing back. But hold on, AI bros, if you're somehow weirdly watching this still, you're gonna be like, but AI is the future. You need to stop the resistance. You need to adapt or die. Hold on, so this is the future? So the future is broke? The future is bad business practices? Wow, yeah, that sounds like an exciting time to live and be a creator. Oh wait, that's unsustainable. Now this next one you're actually gonna like, and it's actually a really positive side effect that I've noticed here. But let me ask you, like, have you noticed how many people have actually had the opposite reaction to AI image gen? Like, have you noticed, by the way, that there are actually people who are now getting back into their art? It's a really curious phenomenon, but it's also a really encouraging one. What I've noticed ever since this tech came out is that there have been people that have let their artwork, let their creativity stay dormant, and then this somehow reignited their passion for it. And as a great side effect is that people are now wanting to launch back into being an authentic creator. Because let's be honest, when you get an image that is not the product of your own effort, you know this, whether or not you want to admit it or not, but it's not a real result. It's not a real effort. It's not a real accomplishment, and nobody really values it, nor will they ever value it. And that's just because you don't get a sustained feeling of accomplishment, and that's what the users are experiencing. And then at the end of that, users start to look for, okay, well, I kind of like this thing, but I want to do it myself. And then they start to look for other avenues for which they can authentically become a creator. AI image gen techs never ever thought that this would happen. Never ever thought that they could do this. They thought that they could replace people's creativity and somehow create a wonderful business model based on it. But honestly, like, who's this stupid group of foolish CEOs all walking around, pacing around their offices going like, you know what artists really need? They need something so that they don't have to make artwork. Capital idea, let's do it. And then people don't like it. Because at the core of what we're doing here, y'all, this is a basic human compulsion. It's a default. It's not a special thing. It's not reserved for certain people. Being an artist is literally part of your programming as a human being because you were born to create something. And that is one of the most joyful opportunities that you'll ever undertake. And what I can draw as a really popular parallel here is like people that are in AI image gen right now, those users, they're kind of like people that want to be parents. So what they do is they borrow their niece or nephew and, you know, they get to have fun and reap all those little benefits and stuff. But at the end of the day, they got to send them back home to mom and dad and they realize they're not a real parent. By the way, I'm not slighting any great aunts or uncles out there. We love you too. But it's not the same experience. It's not the same as rearing your own child. You don't get to call yourself an actual parent. And in that same vein of thought, you are neither the originator nor are you the parent of anything created with AI image generation tech. It is strictly a synthetic illusion. Companies expected people to completely abandon their authentic creation compulsions, but instead it was the adverse effect. Look, as an artist, you already know this, but you can't deny your unexplainable, undeniable compulsion to create. That's part of you. Because AI image generation was created to try to be like you. But that has produced an undeniably ironic result. Now, this next one's really heinous, and I hate to use this as this example, but I can't overlook it either. So let me just ask you this, like, who is the targeted demographic for AI image gen tech? Because in its development, obviously, they had to figure out, well, who are our customers? And this is generally where you're gonna find people that say these lovely excuses like, oh, I'm not talented, I don't have time, oh, I'm unable to. But hold up, who amongst all those people has been targeted as a really sinisterly designed demographic for this? And specifically, I'm talking about people with disabilities. And this really grosses me out, and I think it should appall you as well. All of the users that have actually bought into this excuse, it's a very poor excuse, I'm gonna tell you why. Because all of them graciously bore the seed of hatred towards artists after they've been exploited. No, they didn't really care. They don't care about making life easier for you or making you more creative. They just took advantage of you and ran with it. And then you sucked it down and accepted it. And what we've seen from this is that weirdly, like we're seeing people who have a lack in their life and an inability to perform as a stereotypically normal person would, somehow think it's okay to then therefore disadvantage other people? To disadvantage artists? What's up with that? Okay, so let's run this reverse scenario. So what if the entire world just turned its back on people with disabilities and handicaps? What if all of a sudden all of those rights, all of that access and all that privilege that has made life easier, and deservedly so, because we're all human beings here, right? And we empathetically want to make life easier and better for everybody, right? What if that all just got taken away and then we just said like, well, whatever? Because that's what this demographic is doing against artists, and it's really hard to look the other way from it. And by the way, y'all, I'm not proposing any type of tit for tat scenario. I just want to ask, like, why don't more people consider this? Because y'all need to have more equality and respect, and not in just how you're manipulated by companies. And by the way, who is truly too disabled to be an artist? There are definitely some people out there. I give you credit for that one. But just to let you know, there are plenty of musicians out there that are missing limbs. There are plenty and droves of artists out there with back, neck, and wrist pain. Like, the fact that you have that is literally the lamest excuse in history, because there are so few artists in this world that don't have at least one of those, if not all three of them. Now look, if you live under the sinister guise of actually believing that propaganda, let me just pull back the veil here for a second. You are actually disabling other artists from being authentic creators, and you're stealing from them like something was stolen from you, and then you're defending it? What? I want to urge you, just reconsider this for a second here. not see how that is not just enablement and entitlement on your part? We can do better, y'all. Because artists don't operate like that. We don't take from others in a mean, manipulative, and in a way that is destructive to other people. We create in order to give it, not to take it for ourselves. Now, are you aware that there is currently an ongoing coup d'etat within every single AI research facility? And it's happening across literally all developers. It's pretty beautiful. Check this out. So did you know that within every single company, especially when AI image tech was just on the rise, and it's not just AI image gen tech, it's all the AI companies I'm talking about here, but there's a very specific sector of it that is designed to make sure that it's not harmful, that it is done according to laws, that it is not going to step on anyone's feet. But did you know that those teams are totally revolting? Now imagine, what if in the company that you work for, what if HR just spilled all the beans, just completely spilled the tea of everything that was going on at all the corrupt levels of it? That would be pretty disastrous for the overall publicity of that company, wouldn't it? That's what's happening. We're seeing all AI ethicists are coming out and speaking out against it. There's not a single AI ethicist I have seen across any major outlet, being either the media or on YouTube or on the free internet, that is actually supporting this. There's also, by the way, loads of people in engineering that are coming out and saying that this product, it doesn't make sense, that it's not sustainable, that it's not that great, that it's severely capped and it's limiting. But most importantly, it's completely harmful to everybody. But hold on, wasn't AI image gen tech to democratize art? Well, great job you did there, because now you just allowed everybody to be scrolled over democratically. Isn't that beautiful, right? But no, wait, that's actually not a good thing, and they're spilling the beans about it. And look, the more that this happens, the more that it's going to be a bad look for companies, because they are going to want to distance themselves from this, because they're not going to want that bad publicity. If you don't believe me on this, look, just take a look at it like this. Take a look at people that have canceled others. Take a look at maybe somebody that did something heinous against a presidential nominee or a presidential candidate. Take a look at people that have been canceled for all these horrendous crimes against like people of different color. This is what will happen to these AI image gen companies, and they never saw it coming because it's literally rotting from the inside. Now, I'm really excited to say this one, because I want to let you know why one of my greatest predictions from over a year ago has completely come to light. And I want to let you know this. Did you know that there is a growing list of AI saboteurs out there? Isn't that great? I love that. And I want to let you know too why I think you also need to take up sword and shield against this tech, and here's why. So over a year ago, I made a video about why I think AI art is dying, and I'm gonna say and hold my ground to this day that all of those predictions are coming true, especially when it comes to the effect of anti-AI software. And boy howdy, I did not expect it to be at what it is today already, even right now. And it's great, I love that. And I wanna make a further prediction now to elaborate upon that. So I think that anti-AI tech is going to be a blossoming new field of research. And it's going to follow a similar suit of what we've seen across the board with other things. Obviously, these gross abuses of AI developers, scraping data indiscriminately, taking from every single platform that they can. And then, obviously, all of those users, they feel violated. Like, for example, the fact that Meta just took all of Facebook's pictures of like children and weddings and all of these really terrific moments you've had, and now you're all part of that data set? That's a gross infraction. That's unethical. I don't care how you spin it or what user agreement you agreed to. Like, nobody agreed to be part of this glutton machine. And that pisses people off, and it rightfully makes people feel like they've been violated. And so there's going to be a big push for data security against data scraping. And right now, what are we seeing right now, okay? So we had Glaze back when I made that video a year ago. Now we also have Nightshade, which is the best version of what we can do, because if you're not aware of what that does, it actually poisons the data. So if it's scraped, and let's say you have a picture of a cow, it turns it into a car. Something to that effect, okay? And if you're not already doing this, I'm gonna advise you, I think that you should start to do both, because it's something that I'm starting to do right now. Because again, with us all being digital nomads, the only reason why we're not posting is because we're afraid that it's going to be taken. But honestly, like, if I can kind of Trojan horse my way into posting it, and then if anybody takes it, well, they find a nice little ugly surprise in it, hey, that's a win for us too. But inevitably what's going to happen is just like when viruses first came onto the scene, when everybody first got computers and then hackers figured out how to steal data and how to take over your system and how to steal all your personal information, it's no different. This is the same thing. It's just going to be like there's a new VPN or some sort that's going to allow you to keep your data completely to yourself, and then if anybody tries to take it, then it's going to be blocked from it. This is what I predict is going to happen definitely over the next year or two, because rightfully so, everybody on the planet, artists or not, should feel violated by these companies that have unrightfully and unapologetically stolen everybody's data for selfish capitalistic gains, and we've given absolutely no consent for it. Watch, it's going to happen. Now, this is going to be a really controversial stance, and it's something that I've been saying for well over a year now, and I'm just going to say it right now, but AI companies never expected that they would peak performance after the first 8 months. Largely, when you take a look at all AI image gen tech, it has not made a very substantial growth or development at all. In fact, what they're trying to do, honestly, is just continuously push something new and just add like a little less than 1% of an upgrade to everything. But there's actually nothing new, and it makes sense because why? They already scraped all the best artists. They already scraped all the most popular artworks out there. They already scraped it from the top series and the top franchises. So therefore, it can't predict the future like AI bros think that it somehow can, but it relies instead on artists doing the things that we were previously doing. But obviously, we're not doing that. And because of that, y'all, I want to let you know, AI art is crumbling. And I made an entire video about it right here, so go check it out and learn the truth. Thanks so much. See you next time.
Fever feels bad, so we take medication to suppress it. But is this a good idea? It turns out fever is one of the oldest defenses against disease. What exactly is it? How does it make your immune defense stronger? And should you take a pill to combat it? The heat of life. On Earth, life is able to thrive between the extremes of -10 degrees Celsius in deep, cool pools and 120 degrees Celsius in thermal vents. Step outside this range and die. Every animal or microbe has a temperature range that's ideal and one that's stressful but survivable for a while. Your ideal temperature is where your cells work best, where their internal machinery is the most efficient, and the animal as a whole the best adapted to its niche. Humans are warm-blooded animals, and our bodies expend a lot of energy to keep us around 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Which seems wasteful, but this may actually be a defensive adaptation. Our temperature makes us almost entirely immune to one of the worst killers and parasites, fungi. Most colder animals and their insides are infected by them, but you are just too hot. Which brings us to fever. For any microbe that wants to infect you, your body is a world they want to conquer. Fever is defensive climate change, pushing an invader outside its ideal temperature range and making the world horrible. It evolved at least 600 million years ago and is widespread. Most animals increase their core temperature when they're sick. Fish swim into warmer waters, lizards bathe in the sun, bees heat up the air inside their hive. But you, warm-blooded mammal, you have way more drastic options. Let's make you sick and see what happens. When your blood turns into lava. You're invaded by bacteria and viruses at the same time. The invasion is powerful and you need to slow it down as fast as possible. Fever is part of your first line of defense, triggered by a diverse group of chemicals called pyrogens, the creators of heat. They float away from the battlefield and pass right into your brain, where specialized receptors pick them up and crank up your internal thermostat. First, you begin to shiver. Your skeletal muscles contract really quickly, which generates a lot of heat in your core. At the same time, usually the blood vessels near your surfaces contract and prevent heat from escaping through your skin. Your skin cools down while your insides burn. Fever is a systemic body-wide response and is a serious energy investment for your body. You burn about 10% more calories to stay alive for every degree centigrade your body temperature rises. Fever is also a strong order to lay down and rest, to save energy and give your immune system time to fight. Back to the battlefield. When the bacteria entered your body, they tried to be stealthy, but now they've switched into high production mode. Their goal is to multiply as fast as possible, which means they need a lot of resources and are highly stressed. Imagine running a marathon while eating a succulent Chinese meal and giving birth. The last thing bacteria need right now is more stress. So your immune system tries to stress them out as much as possible by ordering inflammation, which floods the battlefield with fluids, attack proteins, and soldiers. Pretty stressful. Fever is even more stress. For the bacteria a moment ago, the temperature range was pleasant. Now the world burns. Heat can cause their organs to break and the membranes to rupture, damage their DNA, and diminish protein production. They are seriously suffering from the heat. Why doesn't this affect your cells? It does. All of this is stressful for your cells too. Virtually every system and organ of your body works worse during fever, except one, your immune system. Neutrophils are recruited faster, macrophages and dendritic cells are better at devouring enemies, killer cells kill better, and so on. And fever animates your immune cells to gobble up the critical resources your enemies need, like iron, glucose, and glutamine, turning the battlefield into a food desert. The viruses that infected millions of cells are doing even worse because they're also very sensitive to heat. For example, the rhinovirus that causes the common cold can only infect your respiratory tract because it is significantly colder than the rest of your body, even without fever. The heat is also really bad for the millions of cells that are infected by viruses at this point. They are working super hard producing viruses, which is pretty stressful. As the heat becomes too much to bear, the super stressed cells panic. As their internal machinery is breaking and failing, they quickly produce billions of heat shock proteins, or HSPs, that start repairs, keeping them alive. But this is a trap. Even your healthy cells produce HSPs to deal with the heat, but if a cell makes too many of them, this means it's more stressed than it should be. And if it's too stressed, something is wrong and it should be killed. So your natural killer cells and killer T cells are activated and attracted by HSPs and start killing infected cells and all the viruses inside them. By trying to protect themselves, infected cells are calling out to be destroyed. But if fever is such an effective weapon, why don't your enemies adapt to it? How is it still viable in so many different animals after hundreds of millions of years?
If somebody is watching, say hello.
That fever actually might outsmart evolution. If your enemies survive fever long enough, natural selection changes them. The individuals that are better suited to deal with heat reproduce more. After a few days, they've adapted. But this becomes a handicap because the next step is to infect new victims in new bodies, and now healthy humans are too cold for them. Not impossible to infect, just harder. And the heat-resistant microbes now compete with their cousins that like it colder and have an advantage infecting healthy hosts. This creates an evolutionary dilemma without a perfect solution. To circumvent this, serious pathogens like measles use hit-and-run tactics. The measles virus is the most infectious right before your fever hits with full force. It's brutally beaten back once your full immune response shows up, but by then, the damage is done. Fever is an effective part of the puzzle of your immune system, helping to attack and stress your enemies from as many angles as possible. But if fever is so great, why do we stop it when we're sick? Should you fight fever with medications? We think it's normal to have magic pills, but relatively harmless over-the-counter pain medication like aspirin or ibuprofen only became cheap and widely available in the last century or so. Going to a pharmacy to get something for your headache is extremely new in human history. Pain feels bad, so we've gotten used to stopping it when we feel it. If you're sick, you're supposed to feel a reasonable amount of pain, so you lie down and save energy. This is not a bug, but a feature of your immune system. But pain and fever are closely connected, and over-the-counter pain medication like ibuprofen and paracetamol also work against fever. Especially in children, fever is often suppressed by worried parents or doctors, sometimes because they think fever itself is the disease, or they're worried that it can do long-term harm. In general, it's fair to say that for temperatures below 40 degrees Celsius or 104 Fahrenheit, fever is not dangerous and doesn't need to be treated. Of course, there are also patients that should not have fever, like pregnant women, seniors, and seriously weakened patients. For them, the extra stress may be dangerous. Fever over 40 degrees Celsius is dangerous to anybody because it's most likely caused by your internal heat monitor failing. Things get more complicated in serious disease territory. We also have evidence that for some diseases like influenza or chickenpox, anti-fever drugs do not help you to heal faster. But we're also running into ethics problems here that make clinical trials difficult. In one study, doctors gave strong anti-fever treatment to critical care patients, but had to stop after mortality shot up. Overall, we have strong indications that more people may survive serious infectious diseases better with a fever. And there is very little clinical evidence that stopping fever leads to better health outcomes. But there are important exceptions like neurological injuries and stroke. We definitely need a lot more research. So should you fight fever? Well, speak to your doctor and don't listen to internet videos. But this decision is really about payoffs. If a fever is not dangerously high and you can bear it, you're supporting your defenses and may even get healthy a bit faster. But if you feel really bad and are healthy in general, taking a pill against pain and fever will make you feel better quicker at the cost of a slightly less effective immune defense. However you decide, the next time you're burning up and feeling bad, you can rest easy in the knowledge that your enemies are having a much worse time than you. It's thanks to doctors and researchers that we have these insights. We're just doing our part by bringing them to you. If you are also aiming to make a positive difference in the world, where should you start? Today's sponsor, 80,000 Hours, can help you with that decision. 80,000 Hours is a non-profit career advice organization that wants to help people find fulfilling careers that also do a lot of good in the world. And their advice is free, without any hidden cost or fee later on. Like us, they care a lot about making sure their work is based on the best available evidence and consultation with experts. So they spent the last decade compiling and conducting research into topics like how much impact can one person actually have, and what are the best ways to make a positive difference on important global issues. Turns out following a well-known career path isn't your only option to achieve that goal. In fact, there may be many paths that make an even bigger difference in the world that you may not have even heard of. The time you'll spend on your career is probably your biggest opportunity to have an impact. If you want to make the most of it, join the newsletter now and get a free copy of their in-depth career guide sent to your inbox. Just sign up at 80,000hours.org/in-a-nutshell. Are you scared of AI taking over? We've got what you need, a survival kit for the future. And it's dropping at this very moment. Come closer, don't be shy. We'll show you what you need to do. First, the sock problem. You've heard of it. One of your socks will always slip into another dimension at one point, never to be found again. So we've solved this once and for all. A pair of 3 different socks. Lose one and still be fine. Now complete your future-proof outfit and put on this amazing shirt to show everyone that you embrace the digital revolution. Next, you should create an analog backup of your best ideas. This tiny notebook is 100% AI-proof and will keep your thoughts safe from any digital super being. And of course, you can't forget to bring a towel. You can lie on it, sleep under it, or wave it in emergencies as a distress signal. It also contains an accurate map of the entire universe so you won't get lost. Or you can, dry yourself off with it. If you want to get a glimpse of what's to come in the future, get this portal, poster. But beware, not everything is as it seems. Visit our shop and gear up. We recommend getting the entire survival kit just to be safe and save money. All of our products are designed and produced with love and care by us here at Kurzgesagt. Like with our last limited drop, these items are available now until they sell out and then never again. But these products don't just ensure your survival, they also protect the future of Kurzgesagt. Every single product you buy supports everything we do on this channel and enables us to release our videos for free for everyone. Thank you so much for your support. There would be no future of Kurzgesagt without you.
Ergo Proxy is the best dystopian anime that's been created. It explores the hard question of consciousness and what it means to be alive, not in trying to hand out the answers, but by forcing you to reflect and think for yourself what these ideas mean. This can be hard at first. Ergo Proxy does not hold your hand, and it makes it their mission to craft a story that forces you to put the pieces of the puzzle together yourself. And that's where this video comes in. As I've done many times now, I'll outline the events that led to the end of this world, as well as analyze the intentions of Proxy 1. I'll explain the events that transpire from the choices of Ergo Proxy and make the story more digestible so you can clearly understand and, more importantly, reflect on what the story wanted to tell you. So let me be your guide through the apocalyptic future that serves as a lesson to us all. This is Making Sense of Ergo Proxy. In a distant, dark future, Earth has become uninhabitable following the catastrophic chain explosion of methane hydrate reserves beneath the surface. This event wiped out 85% of the human population, coated the Earth in thick, dark clouds, which hid the sun from the surface, and released toxic gas across the globe. The Earth at this point could no longer support life, and so the remains of humanity hastily began and finished the Boomerang Project, a spaceship that humanity would board and survive on while the Earth rehabilitates to its former glory, which at that time, like a boomerang, the ship will return to populate the Earth once again. But to ensure that their planet would return to be inhabitable, another project was put into place, the Proxy Project. If the planet was to make a recovery and be ready when humanity returned, someone would have to manage the Earth in the meantime. So man created Monster, the Proxies, a godlike being capable of creation and immortality. The 300 Proxies would construct dome-like structures to house life while the Earth recovered, ensuring that human culture never disappeared from the planet. To populate these dome structures, the Proxies were given partial knowledge of human DNA and womb systems capable of birthing semi-humans. In every sense of the word, the Proxies became the god and creators of these artificial humans. Along with the pseudo-humans, Proxies created mechanical beings, auto-revs that would serve these humans, devoid of their own free will. Each auto-rev is created for a distinct purpose and told that purpose upon creation. This isn't very different from the process with the artificial humans, each birth from the womb created for a distinct task within the dome. Given the size of these domes, no creature within could lack purpose. The Proxy Project acted as a placeholder of life on Earth, but also doubled as a contingency plan if for some reason the boomerang never returned. But that is not our reality. After thousands of years of life bestowed by the Proxies within their dome creations, the Earth reached its rebound point, now once more habitable for life, and so the boomerang began its return trip, meaning that the Proxy Project was no longer needed as a failsafe, and its self-destruction began. The Pulse of the Awakening. As Earth awakened to its former glory, the gods known as Proxies were no longer needed. They served their purpose of incubating life, and now was time they disappear along with their beloved creations. Their existence demonic to the humans. A failsafe was put into place to ensure the Proxies' fate of death upon their return. Their immortal cells are mortal to the sunlight. Once the sun returns, the Proxies will evaporate in the light. The gods can feel the pulse as the boomerang creeps closer to the Earth. The impending doom of their existence drives many mad, destroying their beautiful creations, feeling betrayed by them. Domes fall to destruction, the life within them destroyed or near to it. Few accept the fate of the pulse that grows stronger and stronger. However, there is a Proxy who vows to ensure that the original humans, his creators, remember the beings they damned. Within the dome of Ramdo, a consumerist society with skylines and concrete as far as the eyes can see, Proxy 1 creates a new god immune to the sunlight, a being he names Ergo Proxy, Agent of Death. Created using a part of himself, Ergo becomes his shadow. But like Frankenstein, Ergo cannot come to terms with his existence. To exist as a hairbringer of destruction for his creators is a burden he cannot house. This is where things get a bit murky. At some point, Proxy 1 appointed Donov Meyer as regent of Ramdo, his duty to oversee all of the city after Proxy 1 forsakes his creations, unable to destroy nor support its life anymore. Unlike other Proxies, he could not bring himself to usher ruin upon his creation, deciding that Ergo will be his retaliation against his creators. But given this duty was too much for Ergo, he fled the domed city and wandered the Arctic wasteland until he arrived at Mosk, a distant dome. Donov witnessed Ergo leave Ramdo, and not knowing of his existence, believed it to be Proxy 1. Enraged, believing his own god had abandoned their dome, he raised an army to travel to Mosque in rebellion. Meanwhile at Mosque, Ergo found compassion in Monad, the city's proxy. Monad outstretched her abilities to Ergo, giving him the option to forsake his memories and knowledge and become an artificial human. Selfishly, Ergo took this opportunity and became the human Vincent Law, but due to the overload of information, basically compacting the information of two beings into one, the payment for the procedure was Monad's cognitive ability. The proxy was locked into a coma for the sake of her beloved. An autorev named Amnesia was constructed for the purpose of safeguarding Ergo's memories in Mosque, but once this procedure was complete, Donov's army reached Mosque, razing it to the ground and capturing the comatose Monad. With the domed city destroyed, the citizens of Mosque, including Vincent Law, immigrated to the city of Ramdo. Proxy 1 no longer shows himself to Donov, creeping in the shadows to influence Ergo's story progression. Realizing that he can use Vincent's subconscious love for Monad as manipulation, Proxy 1 appears before the genius-created scientist, Daedalus, instructing him with the purpose of creating a pseudo-human version of Monad, given the name Real. He is also to watch over the comatose Monad that Ramdo now relies on to function since Proxy 1 has disappeared from the eyes of Donov. Daedalus becomes obsessed with this purpose God himself gave him and raises Real to maturity, where Proxy 1 directs her into working for the Investigation Bureau to force contact with the newly arrived Vincent, whose presence in Ramdao has led to some interesting ramifications. As a side effect to Vincent's assimilation into society as well as Proxy 1's influence, the Autorevs begin to be infected with a virus named Kagito when exposed closely to a proxy, acting as a computer virus that unlocks them from their programming, allowing them to act on their own volition as if being given a